A lot of people ask me about being a witch, witchcraft, spirituality, priestessing. They don't really know the terms for it. So usually what they say to me is, how do you become a witch? That's usually the question. Or how did you become a witch? It's always one of those kind of questions. So today I'm going to tell you how to become a witch. And we'll see what happens. I'm Queen Osset Haru, and thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of Ask an Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit that red subscribe button and smack the bell. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, pass it on to anybody and everybody else that might like it too, and don't forget to drop us a positive comment in the comment section. And please stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to read 2 of my favorite positive comments and respond to them. Okay? If you would like to get a reading done, if you would like to be one of my patrons on Patreon, if you would like to hit me up on social media, if you would like to get some Ask an Aquarius merchandise, all of that is underneath this video. So let's get started on how to be a witch. Now, first of all, let me explain something to you. A witch is not something you become. It's not like becoming a chef or becoming a doctor or something like that. A witch, you're born a witch. So let's talk about what is a witch. In our modern culture, and even in old days, a witch has always been misunderstood. It's kind of like Aquarius, how everybody don't really get us and they misunderstand us. It's kind of that same vibration. So basically, I'm going to tell you what a witch is. A witch is a person who is sensitive to energies. That's it. That's a witch. She's sensitive. He or she could be a guy too. He or she is sensitive to energies. And you're born with that. You're born with that intuitive ability. You're born with that energy. You're born with your psychic abilities, your spiritual gifts. You're born with that. Actually, if somebody looks at your astrological chart, it's in your chart. It's already there. So it's not like something you have to become. Either you are or you aren't. You're born with it. It's like saying, how do I become Irish? I can't. I can't become Irish. I'm either born Irish or I'm not. You see? It's the same kind of concept. In the old days, especially like in different cultures, for instance, if you take it back to like African culture, different cultures in Africa, a lot of times when before the baby was born, before the witch was born, a lot of people would have like divination done while they were pregnant. So they would have somebody like tell them what they should name the child, what the child's life purpose might be, things along those lines. And that's one of the things the priestess or the priest or the shaman or whoever it was would be doing. So back in those days, before you were even born, people knew another witch, was coming in. Another person who was sensitive to energies, another person who could manipulate energy was coming to the village or coming in. And the term witch has been used negatively, but it's not really a negative thing. It's just somebody who knows how to work that energy. Now, the reason why it became negative is because some magic workers, some witches, grow up and choose to do negative things. And some people from outside choose to make things up, about this group of people that they know nothing about. Okay? So a witch is born that way. And different cultures use different words. The word witch was more of like, from when I first started seeing it, it was like more of a European kind of word. Native Americans would use, not all of them, but some of the groups would use medicine woman or medicine man. Some groups, African and other groups, use priest or priestess. Now, some people, like in Central and South America, they use shaman. So, different cultures call this manipulator of energy, this sensitive person to energy, different names. So, that's another area where you get some misunderstanding because it's like, okay, we use all these different names and all these different cultures and all these different time periods, but most of us are doing the same thing, being sensitive to energy. And those of us who are lucky, we learn how to manipulate that energy for healing, for spell work, for cleansing, for blessing, things like that. We teach ourselves or are taught by our elders or however it works in that culture, we're taught how to use that energy. So the witch is definitely born that way, but without getting some knowledge, she can't really do anything with that ability. She's sensitive. She can use that to her advantage. Like if somebody's lying to her, she'll be able to pick up on it, him or her. They can pick up on, sometimes people being dishonest. So they can use it in those kind of ways. But also, if they're trained, like I said, they'll know which herbs they can use to help heal someone, for example, or to hex someone. So as a witch, you know how to help people and how to harm people depending on your tradition and what you're taught by your elders. Now, in my tradition, I'm a priestess of Mayat, and I'll tell you the difference between a witch and a priestess. They're very interchangeable. Remember, I said it's like that particular culture would call them, a priest or a priestess. But now in modern times, you'll come across covens, and there'll be witches in the coven, and then there's a high priestess. Okay? So they've taken this idea, and in this case, the high priestess really is just the leader of the group. And sometimes the high priestess is a high priestess for an interval, kind of like how a president is president for 4 years. So the high priestess might be the high priestess for a year, and then it's another person's turn. And then a year later, it's another person's turn. So this doesn't have to be a job that they always take on. So basically, some witches will become a priestess or what you call a high priestess, but they don't have to. They can just stay basically a practitioner. It's up to the person. It's more of like a leadership position than anything else. And they can decide to go into that or not. It's up to them. So basically, that's how you become a witch. You're born one. And after you're born one, you decide if you're going to learn how to manipulate, how to use herbs, how to use oils, how to do healing, how to do divination. Whatever you're going to do, you're then taught. But you don't come into the world with all of that knowledge. You come in with intuitive knowledge, but you don't come in knowing which herb, for example, will help with infertility. Which oils can help with colds, flus, and viruses. Things like that. These are the things that a witch learns. So, like I said before, if you want to become a witch, you can. But if you already are a witch, you probably already know. You just don't know what you know. I always knew something was weird about me. More so than just being an Aquarius. When I was really, really little, like 2, 3, I remember being 3. So around 3 years old, I remember there's something wasn't right. I could always see people and things that other people told me I didn't see. It was my imagination. And when you're 3 and 4 years old, your mom and dad tell you everything's your imagination because your imagination is pretty vivid. But when a child keeps on telling you over and over again, there's a man in my room and they're describing what he has on, You know, and it's not something that is from this time period. And you hear this enough from this child, and you know this child has no way of knowing these things, haven't seen it on television, not something you talked about, you know, and that's how you know there's something more going on here. So a lot of people, that's how they figure out that their child or themselves has something going on, because strange things keep happening. For me, it was spirits. I kept seeing spirits, and I kept telling my mom. And at first, she was just like, I don't remember like the progression of it. I just remember telling her, and I remember her laughing. I remember her laughing, and then I kept telling her things, and then she stopped laughing. At some point, she realized something's going on here, and you know what she did? She bought me a children's Bible. That's when shit got real. When shit got real, she bought me a children's Bible. Because to her, that was the answer. You know, if you see in spirits, it's demonic and you need Jesus. But what she didn't understand was that that was one of the things that happens when you are young and your third eye is still wide open, you know? Now, the funny part about it was she knew this all along, but did not, her worldview wouldn't let her accept it. Because when I got to be in my 30s and I was a full-time practitioner, she told me that my great grandmother was a hoodoo practitioner, a witch. And it came out, and I was like, what? Why didn't you tell me this? You know, because I had been practicing since I was in my 20s, and she never mentioned it. But finally, she told me, and she told me who she was. And I think that a large part of it was fear. A lot of people are scared of this kind of thing. And a large part of it was fear, just because of, you know, what you hear, and, you know, not being certain about what this is. Is this evil? You know, people always associate craft or spirituality, psychic abilities, spirits with evil. And that's not always the case. You have some situations like that, but most of the time it's something totally different. So I think that was one thing. And the other thing I think she feared was because my great grandmother, the one I'm talking about, was not a very nice person. So she didn't use her abilities for good. And I think she was afraid that because I had a bad temper, everybody know about my temper, I think she was afraid that I would use my abilities to harm people, and more offensive, you know, to hurt people or send things at them. And little did she know, I initiated as a priestess of my eye, not allowed to hurt anything. You know, my vows go totally against it. But of course, she didn't know this. All she knew was the fiction that she had been hearing about spirituality. And my great grandmother didn't explain any of this to her. Back then, the practices were very secret. Nowadays, people are very open about it. They write books about it. I do videos about it. But back then, when my great grandmother and my grandmother's time period, you didn't do that. That was something that some people might know that you did that, especially if you were getting paid to do things for people, but it wasn't something that you were very public about. You know, even in other time periods and other cultures, such as Europe and other places, it's like that. There are places now where you can't openly practice, where witchcraft is still illegal. So I think that's what it was. I think it was just a lack of understanding. So if you want to become a witch, the bad news is you can't. But if you already are, if you were born that way, if you were born with strange things happening, if you were born knowing things you have no way of knowing, if you were born with, you know, these characteristics, then you more than likely already are, and you just untrained. You don't know how to use your abilities, but you were born with the ability. Think about Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston had such an amazing voice. to the point that one of her nicknames was the voice. Your voice that good that they call you the voice? Damn, that's a good voice. But think about it. She was born with that voice. She came into the world with them pipes. And what happened was somebody recognized it and she got the knowledge and training to become Whitney Houston. Millions of witches are born, but don't get that knowledge and training. So they go through their lives knowing that they're strange, picking up on some things here and there, but never really being educated enough to really be able to use it fully. Unless they grow up in a society, and there are some, where it's still understood and celebrated and not feared. Okay? So that is the answer. Now let us take a look at our positive comments. Mary Bose is either Mary Bose or Mary Boss. Mary, hello. How are you? Mary said, I agree to everything. Queen, you are the best at describing us Aquarius. Much love. Thank you so much. And let me know, Mary, what is your last name? Is it Bose? I'm thinking Bose, but it could be Boss. You know, my pronunciations are not the best, but no disrespect. Please let me know. But thank you so much. The reason why I really am good at Aquarius is because I read a lot. I've been reading about Aquarius and studying myself since I was like 5. I was always interested in horoscopes and, you know, all of that kind of stuff, you know? So I've read countless material on Aquarius, and some of it's good and some of it isn't. Also, I have studied myself and other Aquarius. So that's how I know about us. And I think most people who try to describe us, they don't understand us. So they're describing what they think is going on, but that's not what's going on. So they can't get it together, you know? Thank you so much for your comment and your hearts. IKM understood. I do not know how to read that. It says IKMS understood. So maybe it's not an I, maybe that's a L. Like my status? No. That can't be it. Let me know what it is in the comment section. She said, and this is definitely a woman because I saw her pretty picture. She said, for me, oh yeah, and I talk to you all the time in the comment section. You gotta let me know how to pronounce that. For me, it would be a question of, does he want to get help? She's talking about this woman whose husband is bipolar and not taking care of himself, and the woman, it feels like it's killing her, it's draining her. And she asked me, what should she do? And she says, for me, it would be a question of, does he want to get help? If she could talk to him when he's in a good mood. If that doesn't work, then she just may have to show him that if he doesn't get help, she will leave and stand on her word. Yeah, this is what we call tough love. Tough love. And this happens a lot of times with addicts when they refuse to get help. The counselors recommend tough love. And tough love is when you tell them, I'm no longer going to enable you. I'm not going to keep giving you money to get drugs. I'm not going to keep, you know, paying your bills because you didn't pay them because you spent it on alcohol. You know, it's called tough love. You tell them, I'm not going to keep enabling you. And she is definitely, she and I talked about this, she's definitely enabling him. Because if you know that you need help and you don't get the help, and I'm covering up and making things easy for you, I'm making it easy for you to not get the help. So that's why the counselors always say not to do that. So I agree with you 100%. She needs to talk with him. And if he will not get treatment or take better care of himself, then she really does need to consider moving on. I would have left already, quite frankly. The stuff that he did, I would have left. She said that he took their rent money and spent it on, I think it was a game or something. He did something stupid with their rent money. And as soon as I was like, what? He playing with your roof over your head? Certain games I just don't play. And that's one of them. All right, guys, that was the last one. Please come back soon because I have a lot more to say. Take care, guys. See you later.